All right, well, welcome everyone to our Lean Leader webinar for the month of March. We are very excited to have everybody here. I am going to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Reeves, the Director of Membership with Lean Jacks, and we also have our CEO with us, James Bussell.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, there he is. And I'm going to go ahead and read our guest speaker's bio. We are talking about the journey to continuous improvement to innovation with Robert Knutsen today. So we're very excited about this. So Robert was first introduced to lean manufacturing during his bachelor's degree program and to innovation during his master's degree program. Following his tenure as a radar technician on board the AWACS aircraft in the USAF, he pursued a career in various manufacturing industries for the next 20 years. He successfully implemented these strategies in each manufacturing facility he worked in. And he'll talk about some of that today. I don't want to steal the thunder. But his efforts in leading the implementation of success across 9 areas of a large production facility. And he also has his Six Sigma green belt. So moving forward, since those achievements, he's applied innovative ideas with every other position he's held. And over the last 7 years, he's been teaching lean manufacturing in a high school setting. So they have a manufacturing program where he's at, and he'll probably touch on that a little bit. But he's teaching high school students about lean, which I think is awesome. I'm without further ado, Robert, I want to hand this over to you so you can tell us about your experience, and we will have some time for questions and answers as well. Robert, you can take it on over.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to get started on is on a path to continuous improvement. The first thing that is always a great idea and the thing we need to start out with is naturally a success program to get your production set up ready to go for you to find out where your wastes are. And as with any lean project, you need to know where the 8 wastes are. And these 8 wastes are, as you do your success program and as you do your time studies and your different areas of working on your Kaizen event, you are going to learn where you are having problems with your waste. Anytime that you're on this journey, you are looking at ways to continuously improve your processes and your product. One of them is transportation. As everybody knows, a lot of times transportation is a problem where you are just doing too much running around. And if you're doing all this running around to get something done, you're wasting a lot of time. And time is labor costs. Anytime you deal with labor costs increasing, that directly is reflected on your bottom line. So you definitely want to assess all your different transportation cost problems, waste, and everything. One area that we had of a area where we were able to do some continuous improvement and a chance at innovation was at my last company. We were building a product that took basically a new style of the product we had been building, but it took approximately 2 weeks for 2 people to build and test it. Well, the problem is we were walking all over the plant looking for hardware. And this continuous looking for hardware became a real problem. So I looked up different things and came up with this great cart that I recommended that had little little containers on it, and we purchased that, and I loaded all the hardware in that and labeled it. And and we even had an outside vendor um, refill it on a continuous basis. By doing that, it changed the build time from 2 weeks down to 4 days. And that was a huge labor cost savings. So when you're talking about continuous improvement and innovation, they go hand in hand. So you have to get rid of your waste. The over processing, you're talking there where you're doing something that's not needed. If you're building a product and you're, say it's a coffee pot, it's a item that, an example that I use in high school, if you're building a coffee pot and you're finishing the inside, doing a finishing on it and painting the inside that nobody's going to see, why do it? It's not necessary. So you're over processing and it's not needed. So that's an added cost that you can get rid of. So all these different ways add up. And when you're doing eight of them, 8 different things, you've got to learn about your defects also. For the people talk about the Toyota production system. That was a really big thing that they worked on and really looked at and developed a process for it. They actually put up lights to where the operator could actually shut down the line, and the engineers would virtually come running out to take care of the problem. Instead of taking the product offline and putting it in a defect pile, the engineers would come out and check it out and fix it make sure that that was straightened out at the time, so they didn't have a continuous flow of bad product. So that's something you need to look at as far as defects is concerned. So it's a continuous improvement operation. And that is one thing that they really work on the Toyota production system. Unnecessary movement. Like I said about the tool cart, we were doing a whole lot of unnecessary movement. But also, one thing you've got to look at is ergonomics for your workers. If your worker is having to twist around to pick up hardware or pick up the part to put on his desk, on his workbench to work on, that twisting is a problem with ergonomics. That can affect his health. And as anyone knows, if he twists his back and is out a day or two, that affects labor costs with workman's comp, or just the fact that he's not there, not performing his job. So anytime you're dealing with setting up your work cell for your Kaizen event, you have to take that into consideration and set up your tools and materials in a position where the operator can work on them for easy access. So when you're dealing with the Kaizen event, that has to stay in mind. You have to keep that in mind. And so all these different items are a great way to get your continuous improvement going. One thing that it said that Taiichi Ono would look at a process in his production line for as long as maybe 8 hours. Not only just looking at it, but totally assessing what is wrong with it, what is right with it, how it can be improved, and figuring out a way that this should be done in a better way. So he was really uh, the designer of the Toyota production system. And I'm not saying that everybody should look at their process for 8 straight hours. That's often not necessary. If you do that, have a habit of doing that, people are going to start looking at you weird as, okay, what is this guy staring at me for this long for? But it it's a case where you don't just look at your process and give it a once over. Say, yep, that's right. Okay, let's move on. You've got to really assess and say, hey, what can we do to improve this? How can we look at this and how can we change this in such a way that we can improve not only the process, but possibly the product? Because one thing you're always going for is customer value. That customer value is revealed when you're doing your voice of the customer. The voice of the customer is asking the customer exactly what they want in the product. That's your big research when you're designing something. You really need to figure out that, hey, okay, this is exactly what the customer wants. Because if you don't do that, you're going to build something that you aren't going to be able to sell. And why would anyone want to do that? So, hey, your whole idea is to improve your bottom line. So why should you want to build something that that you can't sell? And so if you're looking at, okay, the customer wants a coffee pot, but does he want it with all these extra features? And one thing that is, when you're doing design for manufacturing, you look at is creature creep. What you're doing is you're adding feature creep, I'm sorry, feature creep. What you're doing is adding all these little features that the customer may not want. He may want just a basic coffee pot, and here you are putting on this milk frother and uh, all these different little features that he may not really be interested in. So why would he want to pay $100 for a coffee pot that does all these extra features when all he wants is a pot that will just give him a cup of coffee in the morning, a simple cup? So you need to get the voice of the customer and find out exactly what the individual wants. And by doing that, you can look at the customer value on when you're doing the continuous improvement and looking at the processes and the product and say, okay, is this really satisfying the customer value? Is it really satisfying what the customer wants? Because if it isn't, why are you doing it? All you're doing is adding a cost on the product that is going to affect your bottom line. Because if it costs you an additional $3 a unit to build, that is that much money that is not going to be realized in your profit. And when you're talking hundreds of units, that starts adding up. So you really have got to look at your continuous improvement when you're working on your different ways. One thing that is really not looked at seriously when you're looking at the 8 ways is the unused employee creativity. People really do not value their employees and their ability to look at their product and say, hey, this is wrong, or the process. The best individual to know what's happening with that product and how it is built and what it does is the operator, the assembler, or the production tech. if they are not valued and not basically listened to, you're losing out on a huge opportunity. So you've really got to accept the fact that your employees may know more than what you think, and they can really help you. So you've got to allow them to become involved in your continuous improvement. Your continuous improvement is a huge value for your lean production system. And when you're looking at this, when you do your present state map and you do your time study, that spaghetti chart that you end up with really is of extreme value, because it shows you all the different things that are keeping you from a lean operation. So you have to really assess that chart and see the different things that you can improve upon. Everything that is added in that is not going for the form, fit, or function of the final product is a waste. And so you need to assess what you're building and really check it out and see that, hey, your process may not be what you need it to be. And this also works with an office. You may have 6 people signing off on a requisition that you don't need, just because, oh yeah, this department needs to know that this requisition is going through. Probably not. So why waste the time to get them to sign off on it? The more people you have to have sign off on a requisition is the more time it takes for the process to occur and for the people to actually order the piece that you're trying to do, or order the service. In a service organization, how long is it going to take to approve the sale? Once a salesman gets a customer to approve the sale and give the money, how long is it going to take to get it into the production system? It's got to get there as fast as possible so it can be built and sent out to the customer. You can't delay work orders. If you start delaying your processes, for one thing, when you're dealing with work orders and you're doing on a pull system for continuous flow just in time, you want to be able to make sure that that flow is going as swiftly as possible and getting those work orders ready there. That means the customer gets it sooner. Nobody wants to put up with an extremely long lead time. If you see a lead time of 2 weeks or 2 months, I don't know about you, but that drives me nuts. We're in a instantaneous society. If you want something warmed up, you throw it in a microwave. You don't put it in a pot and wait for it to boil. You want it fast. And it's the same way with a customer wanting a product. So we need to do this. The continuous improvement works on an idea of sometimes it doesn't have to be extremely large innovation. A dynamic, disruptive innovation to be valuable. Like Deming and Taiichi Ohno said, the let me find it on my notes, just a minute. They basically said that if so many a large number of incremental improvements end up in innovation. And so if you're doing one thing that proves that out is a Toyota company. They're one of the largest vehicle producing companies in the world. They didn't get that way by not addressing the problems. They got that way with continuous improvement. Incremental improvements end up huge innovations. And that's one way that you get into the innovation process. When you are talking about innovation, disruptive innovation is like when the VCR turned into a DVD. That was totally disruptive to the industry, because now all of a sudden we aren't dealing with tapes, we're dealing with discs. So it was a total disruption. And it was huge because you could record so much more information on a disc. So when you're talking about innovation, you can have a disruptive innovation like that, or you can have an incremental improvement that ends up totally changing your product. And it's just as good as a disruptive innovation. It just doesn't happen immediately. Another one was the 3M with their Post-it note. As simple as that was, it really wasn't. It's not a stupendous article, but yet it's one of the most used items in an office. Like it's great for remembering things. I do them all the time because it's a simple thing that you can take 2 seconds to jot something down as a reminder of something important to you for you to pick up later. You don't have to pull out your computer, come up with a word processing or notes area, type it all in. You don't have to do that. You just scribble in a note. So that was a huge innovation.
Robert, I just want to say too, for some context with this, like 3M has lean manufacturing, lean production systems, and they use that as part of their innovative processes. But you couldn't be more right how it's become something that's an indispensable form of visual management for people, and something that people didn't even realize that they needed, but they were able to find that voice of the customer about how it could be abused. So that's, I'll let you get back to it, but I just want
No, right. That's fine. I'm glad you inputted that. I'm sorry I didn't start out with, if anyone has a question or would like to input something, please do. I'll be glad to hesitate in what I'm saying. But
Hey, I have a question, Robert.
go ahead.
Can you share some specific examples of how you've applied the lean manufacturing principles you're talking about to encourage innovation with the organizations that you've worked with?
Okay, for one thing, the last company I worked with was that large, that thing about the cart with the hardware. That was a huge help. Another was I developed a test fixture where we could test some of the parts that we were having problems with to find out if it was actually bad or something else. That reduced time, because in the past, if we thought there was a problem with a unit, we ordered another one from the warehouse. They brought it out. We installed it. If that didn't fix it, we went on to another possible fix. So that by itself was a huge fix. Another one was just setting up the Kanban system. We set up a Kanban system of the smaller units that we had to install on the machine, and that really did a great time saver, because every morning the stock clerk would come out and check the cards and then go back to the warehouse and refill the orders.
Robert, if you don't mind, if I ask a question here, or just say, can you elaborate a little bit what Kanban means for those that might be uninitiated?
Okay, basically a Kanban system is a type of visual management where you can basically let people know if you are short a part that needs to work on the system, such as hardware or even units, parts that are needed, like different switches or basically power supplies or something along that line. So if you have, if you commonly use, say, 3 power supplies a day, you would keep 2 bins, have a 2-bin system where you'd have 3 power supplies in each bin. So if you used 3 power supplies that day, you would move that bin out to the front, put a card in it, and then the next morning or whenever the stock clerk seen it and they see that, okay, this needs to be refilled, then they take the card and go ahead and go get the product to refill it, and then you'd move the back one, they'd move the back one forward, the one that was still full for you to use. So this is your basic Kanban system, your visual management of the parts. And that helped tremendously, because then we didn't have to constantly run over to the warehouse to get parts. And if we found not only on installation, but as we tested the unit, if we found a bad power supply, we could go to that section and go ahead and get one and put it in. So that improved it tremendously. And doing the 5S on the different areas really helped, because it basically showed us all the stuff that we had in the areas that we didn't need, that we didn't use, and also kept us in a continuous repair mode, to where we were constantly making sure that everything was up to speed and was ready to go. And we check it about the last half hour of every day. We'd have somebody come out and check, or one person of each area would go around and check and verify everything was up to date and set up. And so this would be a continuous checkup to make sure everything was still in operation as we initially set it up. So these types of things are needed to keep it going.
Hey, Robert, were there specific challenges that you faced when you were trying to apply these principles, and how did you overcome them?
Some of the specific problems were basically employee buy-in, because they didn't want to turn loose of their big toolboxes, and they like to keep their special tools that they use from home. And it was also a place where they could keep their sandwich and keep their drinks sitting on top of the toolbox and everything else. They didn't want to give those up. But once they found out how much easier their job was when only the tools they needed were there, and the specialty tools were there, and they didn't have to purchase them, the company did, they were more accepting to it. They were a lot happier with it. And when they found out that they didn't have to go searching for tools, that made a big impression. Because at the end of every job, you always make sure that all the tools are back in their place. Because part of the visual management system is identifying where each tool goes.
Robert,
And
how do you get
really,
find discipline with that? Because that's something you can set up all these systems, but did you find success with people actually following it because it made their work easier?
it initially it was a little difficult because they still wanted to bring in their own tools and they still wanted to use them.
Mhm.
But after a time, they got used to the idea and they were a lot more accepting of it. When you, as with anything, when you deal with individuals that are set in their ways that have been doing the same thing for 10 years, it's awful hard to get somebody to change it.
Mhm.
And hey, I know if I've been doing something the same way for 10 years and it seems to work, I'm not overly thrilled with somebody coming in and wanting to change it all. But you have to prove to them and show them that, hey, this idea really does work.
Mhm.
It really helps you. And you can't deny the ergonomics of it. It physically makes you feel better if all you got to do is reach up and grab the tool from the tool rack and you don't have to go digging in your toolbox for it.
So, Robert, say you have someone on the front line, a frontline operator that is expressing some interest in innovation and continuous improvement. How do you get them to start coming up with ideas? Because from what you're saying, and this is my experience too, a lot of times like people just don't want to be told how to work better. But like, are there ways that you can get people to start coming up with ideas and experimenting?
Well, in my last company, I set up a idea development program to where uh, they hand in ideas on a chart on a breakdown paper to what they were for, whether it would be a process or material, and how it would be set up, and then we'd take it before a review board of 2 or 3 people, and I'd take it if it involved redesign. I'd take it to an engineer.
Mhm.
If it took it basically, if it required approval on a process, it'd either be an engineer, or the production supervisor, um, or even maybe the director of operations, because it would depend on what the idea was involved. And that worked out reasonably well. We'd give them a gift certificate for coming up with the idea, and that was basically to kick it off. We found that the good of the ideas far outweighed the cost of the production certificates, gift cards, and so it was worth it. And but that was just one way you can do it. There's numerous other ways. If you can find a particular person, now not everyone has got a fantastically creative mind. You can develop it to a certain extent. Like IDEO and out in California, they're a engineering outfit that is fantastic with innovations, but not everyone thinks along those lines. So if you find an individual in your company that is good with that, encourage them. Get them to come up with ideas, welcome the ideas and implement them. And as the other employees see him getting his ideas implemented, they're going to start coming up with them also. And don't be afraid to award the individual or at least give them some attaboys, give them some recommendation. Give them some.
I'm sorry to interject, but just with lean, right? We talk about everyone, everywhere, every day making improvements. And yeah, like you get the type of people that have that creative mind. What would you do to recommend to get people to work out their creativity muscles? Because I have to imagine every company, when they're hiring people, they want people that solve problems and be able to innovate. So from your experience, what are some examples of getting people up to speed?
It is, on face value, it's difficult and it's hard to recognize just by looking at an individual that, hey, he's super creative.
Mhm.
The thing is, what I've found is some of the quote wallflowers are sometimes some of the best creators because they are not necessarily um, individuals that have been allowed in the past to bring forth their ideas. Once you show them that you welcome their ideas, it's great. You want them to be able to show them. You want to be able to show your appreciation and show that these individuals are welcomed and their ideas are welcomed.
I
Uh,
think,
go ahead.
sorry, I think too, sometimes when one person comes up with an idea and that initial idea is welcomed, it encourages the other team members to then bring up their own ideas and innovative thoughts as well, kind of like that group think, so to speak. So when they see that there's one person that is being, complimented or, embraced for their ideas and their thoughts, it kind of encourages the other people to do the same. And I've also found, like with change management, just in general, when you are including the people that are doing the work in the process to come up with those ideas and those thoughts and innovative things, you get greater buy-in from the group as a whole. So,
Without a doubt, you are correct. If you don't have buy-in from the employees, you are not going to have the acceptance that you need. And definitely, once your employees see that you are accepting of the idea of the different ideas of your employees, the more they are, the more the other employees are going to be willing to put forth their ideas. And it turns into a great process. All of a sudden, people are feeling comfortable with putting forth their ideas. And one thing to make sure of is don't ever tell someone that their idea is silly or stupid, because sometimes that particular idea may not sound too plausible at the moment, but later on down the road, that idea may turn out to be one of the better ones. So you really need to look at each idea and at the very least, accept them as a good idea, but something we cannot.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm trying. My dad is like, oh, sorry, hang on.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to make sure I was muted.
Okay, you're fine. Go ahead.
I don't know if she had a question.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, so I have a question while
Okay.
she's coming up with that. So while we're talking about the culture of continuous improvement,
that stuff, and so as a consultant.
hey Pumpkin, I think you're on. You're not on mute anymore. Pumpkin's phone, whoever that is.
Okay.
Oh, we're talking about the culture, right, Robert? So, what's the role of culture when you're talking about innovation? I know we've talked a little bit about, the employee ideas and that being a good, big key piece. But really, how would someone go about adopting that whole culture of continuous improvement and innovation? Is there other ways that you found that successful in addition to your employees, idea program?
Okay, one thing is definitely true. If you don't have buy-in from the top management, none of this will occur, because you have to have buy-in from it, and your employees have to know that the upper echelon is backing it. Because if they aren't, they'll think that, hey, if I come up with an idea, nobody's going to do anything about it anyway. So you've got to first have the buy-in from upper management in all areas of the company. Then, once you have that buy-in, it helps to have a champion that is of upper management, that is set up specifically for the process, set up specifically to make it work, whether it be the operations manager, the supervisor, whoever. They have to be basically the champion for those ideas and processes or product changes. So you have to be able to go to that individual and say, hey, we've got this idea. What do you think of it? And can we make it work? Because if you don't have these champions, it makes it that much more difficult to get it implemented. Because then you got to go through the whole chain, and you're going through all this different process that basically seems to be set up to make your life difficult.
So Robert, I think part of what you're talking about is, that teaching, that change management aspect of, the employees. But I also see too that, you mentioned that you are currently teaching in high school. So, how do you, how have you used your teaching experience to influence and improve the implementation of lean principles? Like, how are you doing that currently with your students? Because you're raising up some future lean thinkers. So
Well,
how does that work?
I've taught them the 6S principles, and then I've actually set up like a little project where they had to actually set up a workbench and figure in the ergonomics of it and how they were going to do a tool visual management board for them, how they set up the tools and how they set up everything to do a production. And so that has, in fact, I had several students actually say how fun it was to do the project. And so I'm trying to get them to start getting the ideas that 5S is a workable process, that it's just common knowledge that it should be done all the time with everything. And I'm teaching them that, hey, it can also be done at home, whatever. I've seen videos where people do it for their closets at home, but
Guilty.
you're so you
I have a poster in my closet.
Oh, really?
We do 6S. We add safety. I make sure it's out of anybody else's view, but I have it like in the corner to remind myself that I need to clean this out.
Okay, I haven't gone that far, but you're
well, if anybody wants one,
okay.
our Lean Jacks members, can have a. We have.
Oh, okay.
It's all semantics. We add safety to it, but yeah. Guilty.
That's true commitment right there.
Yeah. But
anything you want about me, I'm committed.
Yeah. So when you're when you're dealing with students or anyone, it's a case where once they get the initial teaching and implementation, they start to realize how good it is and how it helps. And if you are in a factory situation or even an office situation, once you see how it helps you, you don't really mind that it occurred, and you kind of like the fact that, hey, this stuff is so much more convenient. I like this. And say in a simple office situation, if you've got a specific spot set up for your stapler or your pack of papers in the inbox or your pencils in a certain area, it makes it so much easier because then you know, okay, I need a pencil, you just reach over and grab it. Or I need a marker, you reach over and grab it, or a stapler. Okay. It may not seem like much, but it becomes second nature. And once that occurs, it makes your flow of operation so much easier, so much more convenient.
Well, I think
That's
it's
what I tell
awesome.
my son.
Go ahead,
Huh?
Michelle.
Sorry, I said that's what I tell my son, you know, when he's trying to find his shoes, you know, did you put it in its home?
Yeah, put it in the same place every time. You'd be surprised if you discover that it's there when you go looking for it.
I just wish they
I've-
offered this in more high schools because to me, this is very impactful for companies and all different industries where you have people that they don't have the work experience, where we're all guilty of it. We develop all these bad habits, but yet they're at the time where it's right before they're going to enter the workforce. They're doing visual management, they're doing continuous improvement, they're organizing. To me, for companies hiring people, one of the biggest issues is they hire people, they're not problem solvers, and they have to like teach that capability. It seems like to whereas if there's more of what you're doing, you have these problem solvers ready to go, and then they'll get better and better. But on the front end, they'll be making things better. So that's why I was excited when we first got connected about learning more about what you do there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's great.
I've always approached it with the idea that, hey, I want to give them the basic understanding of what it's like to work in the manufacturing environment.
Yeah.
And give them some of the basic tools, the basic skills in order for them to be productive as soon as they walk in the door. At least know the technological terms and some of the processes. And if they do that, a lot of companies will be a lot happier. Like basic learning how to read a tape measure. You'd be surprised at the number of people that can't read one. And even in a company. And so I try to teach them that. And so anytime you can have an impact on students to get them to learn the basics, hey, it helps a lot. And with
So
a
Robert,
company,
we're adult students of Lean too, a lot of us, and I guess we're always continuously learning, but you know, kind of to wrap this up a little bit, what advice would you give to organizations that are maybe just starting their journey from Lean to innovation, and maybe some steps to help that be successful?
okay, one thing you could do is first off, naturally do a success, then go ahead and bring them in, bring your employees in and start teaching them about the ways, and even before the Kaizen event, get them to be aware of it, aware of the different ways that they're looking for. Then do the Kaizen event. Go ahead and do the time studies and the present chart and the future, present map and the future map, because you want them to know that, hey, this is all going to result in incremental improvements, that continuous improvements that we're looking for. And as we go along the incremental improvement path, we're going to break into some innovations. It can't help but do that. Because one thing, once you have the top management buy-in and start getting the employee buy-in, because of the different things that you do as far as rewarding them for their ideas and letting them know how much you appreciate it, they're going to keep giving them. They're going to actually look at their processes and product and see how well they can do to make it better, and come up with ideas to make the whole process better. That is what you're after anyway. And it helps for you to let them know how much you appreciate it, because of the fact that anytime someone is appreciated, they're going to work harder for you. I don't care who you are. And so because of that, then you get more response from those around them also. And people start looking for ways that they can improve things. And the continuous improvement that you're looking for may end up a total disruption. It may end up in a breakthrough innovation, where it's not a total disruption of the industry, but it's a breakthrough in how things are occurring.
I like to use the baseball example from what you're saying. Just make contact. You don't always have to be swinging for the fences. It may result, but if you get hit singles and doubles, you're going to score a lot of runs, right?
Yeah.
So just like, but I think that's, some people get scared with continuous improvement, where they're thinking it's like this radical change immediately. It's continuous improvement. It's incremental, as you're saying. And to whereas, I think your examples are great to get people understanding that, to whereas, piece by piece, you're going to get so much better and you're going to improve. So
Right.
Yeah, I think
And
that's great. That's just good information. How about some of our other listeners? Do you guys have any questions for Robert that you'd like to ask as we wrap this up? Anybody? I've asked all the questions.
are there any other questions?
I have a quick question, just in terms of getting employees involved in the innovation process. How do you kind of refrain from any sort of complaints or some sort of negative buildup around that?
Try to persuade the individual to look at how it has improved their work life, how it has improved what they were doing, and how it, for instance, if you're looking at your area and doing it more from an ergonomic aspect, you can show them how that has helped them.
Well, I also think, Robert, I just wanted to say, like, for that to where is, these idea suggestion systems can become complaint boxes that people are looking to, where I think the whole thing that, as you were talking about, it's to get them empowered to come up with an idea to fix things. So it's not just like they're just saying, this is what's wrong with it. This is what's wrong with it. And then this is how we're going to try to make this better.
One thing that a boss told me years ago is that I don't want to hear any complaints. I want to hear that, okay, this is something we can improve upon, and this is how it can be done. And basically, you're asking for buy-in from that individual to improve it. If all they want to do is complain, say, hey, if you're going to complain about something, I want you to think about ways we can improve it.
Yeah, be part of the solution, not the problem.
Right. And that gets them thinking along that line. Because if, like I heard a, regional salesman say a number of years ago, you don't have any problems, you've got opportunities to excel. Well, I like to add things to it, like, you know, you've not only got opportunities to excel, but you've got opportunities to show how good you are. And hey, everybody likes to kind of show off and show how good they are. So why not give them an opportunity? Just tell them that, hey, you've got this problem. You think this is wrong? No, come back to me. This is Thursday. Come back on Monday with ways that we can improve this. And show me how great you are and show me what kind of ideas you can come up with to improve this. That's one way that you can approach it. And once you've got through the Kaizen event and they're still fighting it, you can start showing them different ways that it has not only improved the company, but it makes their job easier. And I have yet to see a Kaizen event to where it didn't make their life easier.
And people get
No,
excited, like at the end of it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't always look at the fact that, yes, we've removed some things that you may like to have around you, but there it is. That's just part of it. But look what else has been input to improve your life. And look at it from that aspect. And a lot of times you're more apt to get company or employee buy-in.
That's great stuff. Thank you, Robert.
Do we have any
Anybody
other
else?
questions? Comments?
Jackie, did I answer that all right for you?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem. Anyone else have any questions? Please do.
No questions. I just wanted to say thank you for offering your stories and giving your feedback on how it all kind of worked together. I think that's a big thing, at least for me, to understand like how these implementations little by little can create your big picture overall. And I think when you see companies already in that place, you forget like there's a journey to get there. You know, it just takes time.
Yeah, that's like the Toyota production area didn't happen overnight. Yes, they're one of the biggest automobile industries in the world, but that didn't happen overnight. They really started out in 1947. They came over and looked at how Henry Ford was doing his assembly line. And then they improved upon that. And look how many years it's taken them. We've got the benefit of what they've gone through. And so we can start out a lot further down the line, a lot farther down the road than they've taken. So we've got great opportunities. So no doubt it's going to take some time to implement everything, but it's well worth it. In the long run, you are going to really see your bottom line affected. Also, happier employees. And if you really pay attention to the ergonomics, you're going to reduce your labor costs because you'll have less absenteeism.
Mm.
You'll also have less absenteeism because of the dreads of coming to work with some of the earlier problems they ran into when they did show up to work. Nobody wants to work in an area like a machine shop where they got oil all over the floor. They're worried about slipping and falling into the machine or something like that. Or the machine's always dirty. Nobody wants to work in that kind of environment. So once that is cleaned up, they're a lot more proud of it. Once your areas are more cleaned up, one thing a lot of people don't look at is the payoff of what is called goodwill. That is huge in the business world, because if you're, say for instance, you're buying a company and they've got a lot of lawsuits against them for poor product, you're gonna, and you want to buy up that company or turn it around, you're going to get that company at a lot lower price than if they were a company that were right on the ball doing everything right and got very few complaints. So if you've got your company in order, a good 5S system set up to where your production line looks nice and clean, smooth operation, very orderly, and your customer comes to visit, they're going to see this and say, hey, if they're doing this nicely to build my product, this is a product I want to buy. And if they've got their place this clean, they're concerned about how they build my product. And that is a huge addition to goodwill for the customer. That is goodwill is a thing that companies look at when they buy other companies on how they're perceived in the business world. And that is a thing that people look at when they're customers also. Because if the company has had a lot of recalls, why would I want to buy from that company? I'm afraid I'd be buying a low-grade product. And so I'd want to buy from a company that always got good reviews. And now that reviews are given online about everything in the world, including how great your toothpick is, you want to make sure that your product also is that way. And when a customer comes through, you want them to say, hey, this is a fine looking company. I want to buy from these people.
That's good stuff, Robert. I mean, really, the customer defines value, right? That's the whole gist of it. So we really appreciate this. This has been great. A lot of good information. It's just been very valuable. So we appreciate your time today and coming out and talk to us about all your experience and everything that you've done, and continuing to looking forward to, what you're going to be doing in the future. So we really appreciate that. James, do you have any announcements or anything
Yeah,
that's coming up?
just really quickly to give some context to anybody also listening to this video, which will be posted on Monday, and we'll get out there. To whereas Michelle Ortiz and Robert are individual members of Lean Jacks. So any questions you have for them, like, they're not going away. And that because a part of the mission of our organization is collaboration and knowledge sharing. So there'll be that. And then also we have a new training cycle that's coming out of workshops that are going to be a hybrid format that pretty much go through most of the things that Robert touched on. I might even steal some examples if that's all right with you.
No problem.
But introduction to lean production and service and 6S, we'll have a schedule shared with everybody coming up. But I think the thing is, like, for any members watching this, get engaged. Like, you can learn so much from a wealth of knowledge from someone like Robert, and we can set that up for you.
Yeah. Anyways, we appreciate you guys coming out and taking time for our webinar today on your Friday. Just stay up to date with our events. You can go on our website, and we'll have those posted probably next week. We'll have those up with links to register for some of the classes. You can go to our calendar and those will be there as well, and our social media. So make
And
sure to
these are
follow
going to
us.
be on Friday mornings, starting on April 12th. So we'll keep everybody up to date about the
Yeah.
what's coming next.
One more thing, real quick. I forgot it. I forgot one more example of disruptive technology. I'd be errant to not telling you this one. This is a really good one that I love.
Okay.
A company that I go to quite often is QPAC. Matt Kent is a CEO, and he does a great job there.
And they're in
He
St. Augustine, Florida, right?
St. Augustine. He has basically disrupted the air conditioning handling systems by well, let me tell you a little bit about what they did in the past. In the past, they have always had these huge motors driving these huge fans by belt, and they would pump the air through. Okay. The thing is, though, he has come up with ideas with a plug and play system to where he has numerous smaller fans that are extremely efficient that does the same type of thing, only they pump through a lot more air, and they're more efficient and maintenance free, and they're a whole lot more case where if one fails, they've got backups.
Yeah.
They've got redundancy that is great.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about a hospital or even a business building, office building, they've got great redundancy. So he has totally disrupted the AC air handling system industry. And it's all plug and play systems. They don't have to have a crane to lift it up on the roof. They can totally readapt the one that they're replacing, the whole area, and it works great. And so I give a big shout out to QPAC on what they've done.
Very good
It's a
company.
great company.
Yeah.
So just wanted to add that for
And that's
local disruptive.
Through Lean Jacks, there's lots of great companies who are disruptors, and that's something we can help try to make some connections through our work with the consortium. But again, Michelle had to leave a little bit early. I just want to say thank you so much, Robert, and I hope that's all right. We'll probably ask you to do this again, and they even add, because I think these stories are great, and then there's the discussions we can have going forward. So anyway, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody have a good day. And again, we will have this posted on Monday at leanjacks.org. And then there's also the opportunity to go watch the ones we've had in past months, which are also very valuable. We've had some good interviews for sure. So, but anyway, have a great weekend. And thanks again, Robert.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.